Have you seen the show Euphoria, the new show that just came out on HBO? It's a new show,
No.
Sydney Sweeney's on it. And what's interesting just with that show, so her character in the show, she, in order to pay for her wedding, she starts an OnlyFans account.
Hmm.
So even in just from a subscription standpoint, people spend over $6 billion in that industry. Three-fourths, right? So at least 75% of men occasionally watch pornography. 50% under the age of 25. Our head pastor at the revival event that we have at Rise Up Kings, we had a conversation about a month ago, and he said that 50% of pastors are struggling with it. Even for them though, right? They can't say they're struggling with it
Right.
because if they say they're struggling with it, they lose their job.
What is up, my friends? Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview truly incredible fathers, gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our own craft of fatherhood. I am your guide, Ned Shout, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 13 to 20, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 22nd year of marriage. So yes, I am in the thick of it, and I am working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for their families. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role. The role of the father is to serve, guide, steward, protect, and of course, find joy and have fun in the messiness of it all. Today's guest is my friend, Thomas Bills. We have a truly remarkable conversation, a really great opportunity. We talk about pornography, masturbation, the renewal of our minds. I'm looking forward to you getting to step into something that most of the time we are not talking about, we're not leaning into, and we're not sort of normalizing the reality, the impact that this has on men and women and families and our kids in our culture. My friends, enjoy meeting my friend, Thomas. All right, what is up, my friends? Stoked to welcome my friend Thomas Bills to Fatherhood Field Notes. Thomas, how you feeling today?
Man, I am fired up to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and am expectant that God is going to do a work through this podcast.
Yeah, man, I already got chills. You know, you and I, we've crossed paths over the years. I don't know that we've ever like sat down and had a meal together or really connected, but a couple weeks ago, you and I were talking about something, and then you were sharing with me what you're doing with Liberated Kings, and I was just so inspired that I was like, we have to talk about this. So that's why we're here. But before we do, I want people to get to know you just a little bit. So first question, how old do you find yourself today?
I am 29 years old. I will be 30 in January.
Oh, let's go, dude. Feeling good, huh?
I feel my 20s have been a year it was a decade of wisdom, growth, and I found Jesus at 24.
Okay.
I didn't know right, I had no relationship with Jesus until I was 24. The beginning of my 20s, I was on a path of destruction. I caused a lot of hurt to other people, and so it's been
Hmm.
cool to see how he has redeemed that, and my
Hmm.
back end of my 20s has been making an eternal impact.
Man, that's epic. Okay, so 29, found Jesus at 24. How long you been married?
I will 4 years in August, so we got married,
Okay,
2022.
2022 married, and then no kids yet, but like kids on the way. Is that like down the road? What's your thought on the fatherhood situation?
Yeah, so kids, we were trying to last year, wife had actually a tumor on her right ovary. And
Oh
so in
wow.
the process of trying that got found out. And so she had surgery on that. Luckily wasn't cancer, but there's just
Mm,
been this recovery process. And so with kids, I would like to have kids. There's a
mm,
loose grip around kids. And I have seen how God has used me in a lot of other ways to make an impact in other people's kids.
mm-hmm.
And so it will be nice if it happens. And if it doesn't happen, I'm surrendered to the fact that God's still good.
Yeah, yeah, super good. And I think that fatherhood in a lot of ways is also just like a posture, right?
Mm.
So so maybe share like what do you do for your career right now? Like you are in a sense like leading charge as a mentor to young men. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my primary role at Rise Up Kings is I run the 18 to 26-year-old division of it. So I'm the head coach of it. Skylar took a chance on a 25-year-old that loved the Lord, that was on a path of growth, also super insecure 4 years
Mm,
ago, and gave me the opportunity to launch the covenant. I've been doing that for 4 years in October, and so we've almost had 500 men go through that. And so
sick. Let's
yeah, dude,
go,
it's been
dude.
cool. And just to see them turn into, right, they've become dads, they've gotten married, their lives have completely changed because of ultimately how God has used the community, used Rise Up Kings to completely transform them. And
Hmm.
so to be able to have a front row seat in that and just to see the transformation has been incredible.
Dude, love it. Love it. Awesome. Yeah, so getting to spend that time with them in this season of being young, married, um, and I don't wanna say without the distraction of kids, but with the full focus on what God has in front of you right now, right? Leaning into that marriage and then being an example to these young men. What a cool opportunity. So today, what we're leaning into is something else that you're passionate about, something you've launched with Liberated Kings, and
Yep.
it's around. I'm just going to read your mission statement. You know, like I'm on your guys' website, liberatedkings.com, which is truly incredible. And I want to like kind of pick it apart and to say, but pick it apart a bit. But liberating men from porn and masturbation through grace, identity, mind renewal, and the power of the Holy Spirit. So what's the problem, right? So just to start right there, when we think about, let's just pick pornography for an example. What is the current problem?
Yeah, so the current problem with porn is that an AI is just amplifying the problem. And so the
Hmm.
degree in which the addiction is affecting men, ultimately affecting human beings, is amplified with AI and just, what they're seeing on websites. And what I mean, porn is, it's men are addicted to it. So at least 75% of men occasionally
That's
watch
wild.
porn. And I think that number's much higher. I think the reality is a lot of
Hmm.
men carry shame. And so they don't want to share why they're right, that they struggle with it. They don't want to admit it.
Hmm.
And 50% of women under the age of 25 are watching porn.
50% of women under the
Uh,
age of 25 are watching
Correct.
porn.
It's a human being problem now.
Hmm. Why do you think that it has shifted from your perspective to being a man problem to a woman problem as well?
Yeah. I think that you think 30 years ago, before the internet has ultimately turned into what the internet has turned into. I don't
Hmm.
know, right, your story with porn. I got exposed to it in 5th grade. I didn't go finding it. It found me. I was at a buddy's house. He told me, "Hey, come upstairs. I have something that you want to see." I had no idea what he was going to show me. He pulled up the website. I still remember the website. Like, I still can sit in that
Mm,
memory and like I remember it. I can feel it. And in that, the first thing was that, hey, I like it, which is right. God designed us to have sex with our wife and to enjoy it, and
mhm,
so I liked it, and I felt this shame of like, if my parents know, what's going to be the consequence of them finding out.
mm,
So then I hit it. I was like, hey, I'm gonna keep it in the dark, and then the addiction grew until I'm right 22, 23 years old, and I'm completely addicted to it. And now porn has evolved into much more different addictions, doing much more things than I never thought I would do. And right, sin ultimately leads to death. And
mhm,
I didn't realize in 5th grade the degree in which that death was going to take me, and the death it was ultimately the effect it was gonna have on other people. And so I think, what to answer your question, what now has happened is that it used to be, hey, you found that magazine in a playhouse, or you
mhm,
found that magazine, right? Somebody's dad had it, and now the internet has made it accessible for anybody. And I think oftentimes it's not that we have a porn problem, it's that we have an ineffective mechanism to deal with the pain that comes up due to an insecurity that we have, this core lie that we believe about ourselves, and porn is how we sedate.
hmm, hmm. When did you find yourself at a point where you're like, "I don't wanna do this anymore, and I want to find a path out?"
Yeah, so November of 2020, I was sitting in my half bathroom at 626 Sherwood Drive, and I had a different perspective around porn. And so I remember hitting an age to where I knew the woman on the other side of the screen didn't want to be on that. She didn't want to
Mm,
be on that screen. She
mhm,
got in the industry and she got trapped into it. And so I think there was this self-hatred that came up and this shame that came up.
Hmm.
Where I'm like, man, she doesn't want to be there. She got stuck and now this is ultimately what she's doing. And so November of 2020, I would say was really when God started knocking down this wall of it just in my heart. And I had projected onto him my relationship with my stepdad and my dad. And so my parents got divorced at a young age. I had a stepdad that didn't have a good household. And so my whole thing with God was like, hey, why would you want a relationship with me if this is ultimately how my dad treated me?
Hmm.
And I know completely not true, right? More how my stepdad treated me. And so I'm 23 years old. I'm hating this addiction. I get asked in January of 2021 if you died today on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being absolute certain, 1 being not at all, how confident are you that you would go to heaven? And if God asked you why he should let you in, what would you say? And my life completely changed when I finally heard the gospel for the first time in my life.
Hmm. And so that when you heard the good news, the gospel of that you don't have to be trapped in death, that and I mean, death could be walking around here for your life, right? Um, you felt a sense of freedom and an opportunity to step into healing there.
100%. I finally, for the first time in my life, I understood my identity in Christ. So
Hmm.
up until that point, I had never fully understood that.
Hmm. So did it become easy to stop the addiction, or and did it just become possible?
I think that my story is going to be different than a lot of other people.
Yeah.
So at that point, January, I heard the gospel. I understood it that, hey, I was a 7 out of 10 when the guy asked me and he said, well, what would you say? I was like, hey, I'm a good person. And I know some places I've gone to, so I don't understand how a holy God would spend eternity with me. And he had
Mhm.
me read Ephesians 2, 8 through 9. And it was at that point in my life, I understood that, hey, Jesus didn't die for 70% of my sins. He died for 100% of my sins. And my salvation, my identity, me being a son of God is completely secured in what he did and not anything I've ever done. And so that changed everything because now I'm not trying to earn God's approval. It's like, no, I'm just
Mhm.
resting in already what I have. And so then with the addiction, right, with pornography and masturbation, I was addicted at one point. I remember it, I was praying to God. I was like, God, I'm done with it. I don't want anything to do with this. I'm done with it. This was February of 2021. I haven't masturbated or I haven't watched porn since.
Hmm. Wow. Wow, that's incredible. So it has been life. How have you seen other areas of your life shift or change from removing this addiction?
Man, I mean, I think one of the biggest ones that comes up is just sharing is with my wife. So when she had that surgery, so in our
Hmm.
marriage, I haven't brought pornography in our marriage. I haven't brought me masturbating in our marriage. And so even just in my marriage with Nicole, when she had her surgery and there was this 8-week recovery period where she couldn't have sex
Hmm.
because her body was healing, I knew that she didn't have to deal with the insecurity of that. Well, hey, my husband's just going to go get it somewhere else.
Hmm.
When we have a disagreement and I feel like, hey, I'm not good enough, which is really what stems from my childhood, she doesn't have to deal with the lie. Well, hey, he doesn't feel good enough. So now he's going to go figure out how to go sedate that lie through
Hmm.
pornography, masturbation, stuff like that.
Hmm. Dude, so good. So, I think you pulled up a couple other statistics. I'd love to put those here. Grab those here while we're at the front end of this.
Yep. So some big ones. And I was preparing. Have you seen the show Euphoria, the new show that just came out on HBO? It's a new show.
No.
Sydney Sweeney's on it. And what's interesting just with that show, so her character in the show, she, in order to pay for her wedding, she starts an OnlyFans account. So in the show, she starts an OnlyFans to pay for the wedding, the character in this show.
Hmm.
So even in just from a subscription standpoint, people spend over $6 billion in that industry. Three-fourths, right? So at least 75% of men occasionally watch pornography. 50% under the age of 25. Our head pastor at the revival event that we have at Rise Up Kings, we had a conversation about a month ago, and he said that 50% of pastors are struggling with it. even for them though, right? They can't say they're struggling with it
Right.
because if they say they're struggling with it, they lose their job.
Hmm. Hmm. Man, and there's just so much shame attached with this. Um, shoot, as I'm sitting here, I'm like, I feel like it'd be if I share my own story, it would be helpful. It's interesting. So I grew up, just because I think as guys listening, it's like, okay, well, like, what's Ned think about this? So as I grew up, man, I think back, like, as you're sharing some stories, I think back to, um, growing up in church, and it just like sex was kind of a bad thing. Like, all I really remember is sex is bad. I would say that's more where my shame came from. Uh, is that, and I remember being with some kids in like seventh grade and them having porn magazines, and then my mom had just adamantly told me like, don't look, don't look. So I didn't really see. I can't even remember the first time I maybe saw like a magazine. I remember finding one in the street once at like 19. Um, was there a time that I saw it before? I mean, I'm 42, so like looking on the internet wasn't a thing until I was like early 20s. Um, and so I think I learned about masturbation, like early on ninth, 10th grade ish. But again, I don't even remember it being that big of a thing. I think I was just afraid,
Mm.
afraid. And then, some dating in high school, sex was never a big part of that. And then my wife, we didn't have sex until we got married. I remember our friend, which is very rare, I get, our friends were like, why are you, we had our wedding at a friend's house, and we were leaving early from the wedding reception. And the mom was asked my friend, she's like, why are Ned and Sarah leaving from their reception so early? And she's like, because they haven't had sex yet, you know? So, so but then it was almost like this interesting step into that, because I got married at 21. And I will tell you, I think that's a big reason I got married early,
Mm.
which if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have said, I think that it, not that I would have wanted to wait. I know it's God's story for me, but I would probably have told my kids to wait. But now, meeting more 20 to 25-year-olds, thinking about my own story, I'm like down for my kids to get married at 20, 21, 22, 23. Like, I don't think you need to be ready. I don't think that's part of God's plan. I think you get ready and figure it out with your partner,
Mm.
which is a whole nother conversation. Okay, so porn also became less interesting to me when I had daughters, and I did some mission trips with high schoolers to Cambodia in my 20s, and that realization, like you had said, that I think, I don't remember the stat, but just off the top of my head, like 98% of women in pornography are basically slaves.
Mhm.
Like, they are trapped there. And so this idea of like, that's somebody's daughter, that person was born to some dude who didn't do his freaking job.
Mm.
I know that's not all accurate, but that's like the passionate dad side of me. So I think that, um so that's where I land on a lot of this stuff. Um
And I would
so
even
okay.
add I would add even on that, I think even you think we look at the girl, and
Hmm.
that's right what we say, and the reality is that's the son. That's the guy on the other side of the screen in most
Hmm.
cases. Joshua Broom, who did a podcast with Skylar, was talking about it, and I've heard him speak multiple times, and he was in the industry, has a
Mm.
powerful testimony, and how he even talked about, like, they intentionally go after a certain type of person because they know that once they are in the industry, they will be addicted to it. Like this person that has oftentimes abandonment, right? Their
Hmm.
father left them, their mom left them as a kid. And then that's the person they go after because once they have them in it, they can keep them in it.
Yeah, dude, it's so sad. It's so sad. I just don't even understand, frankly, how we allow it to be legal when we have all these issues with child molestation, and we're frustrated with how, women get treated and all this, yet we allow this industry to exist is kind of beyond me. It's like it's um it's contradictory to what we want in our society. So it's very strange. The thing I'll tell you in my own story, and this is why I find your mission to be interesting, because I think, and I don't know, like I haven't been on a lot of like, like get yourself free from porn kind of sites, but I've never really seen the masturbation. Like stuck out to me as interesting, because for me, I think it's been more of my mind, right? It's been easy to say, I'm not going to look at my phone and then maybe justify my thoughts, right?
Mm.
Um, And so I think that's why I would lean towards the masturbation part being an unhealthy for somebody, because it's like, as much as you want to say, like, I'm just going to think about my wife or whatever it is that you're going to sort of justify in your head, the truth is like becomes harder and harder for that to be the case.
Mm.
And you're going to find yourself wondering about things you shouldn't wonder about, or role playing things you shouldn't role play. So talk to me a little bit about the masturbation side. Like, why, I mean, obviously, like, what are your thoughts on it, bringing that in here? Um, I think it's easy to justify, well, I'm not looking at something gnarly. I'm just like handling this so I don't bother my wife, or I don't whatever, whatever, whatever. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts is, and where I've landed is that, yeah, I think masturbation's a sin, right? I think I'm stepping into lust and doing it. And even if it's just Nicole, the reality is that me going to masturbate is me doing something selfish, because it doesn't take work. I don't have to cultivate a place in our marriage where my wife feels emotionally safe to lead to physical connection. I don't have to go do the work in my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I can just go take the selfish road, which is ultimately me masturbating to get what I need in that moment, and not water my relationship with my wife to then lead to
Mm-hmm.
physical intimacy. And so it's easy to justify it. And I think no matter what the justification is, it's still not the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me just take a little. So I'm just going to give my definition of sin.
Yep.
For me, sin is a trigger word, for lack of a better. And not that you can't use it. It's in the Bible. Let's use it. But I think for me, sometimes sin, when I hear the word, I think you're a bad little boy.
Mm,
And in reality, what it is, and I'm giving Ned's perspective on this, is it's not even like, it's like if my kid's bad, I don't set him outside and say, sorry, son, you cannot be inside the house because you're bad now. But God created an order, like gravity, of how things work. And when I operate outside of that, it leads to destruction or death for myself. Now, that doesn't mean I'm like gonna, fall off a cliff, but sin leads to not the ideal, right? And the ideal is that I am working hard, dying to myself in intimate relationship with my wife,
mm,
right? Which is freaking a lot of work. It is a lot of work to wait till she falls asleep to like go handle this on my own requires little of me. It doesn't require me to die to myself. So when we talk about masturbation is a sin, what we're saying is, if I choose to just every night my wife falls asleep and I go masturbate, I am no longer in the fight for my marriage or intimacy with her, which is leading us astray from each other. That's sin. Sin is destruction. Sin is not the ideal.
mm.
Any other thoughts on that? I just like sometimes like to break that down, because it's that's like the 10 commandments. The 10 commandments aren't rules of how you have to live. It's, hey, you've been slaves for 400 years. You don't know how to live in community. So here's the guidebook. Don't steal from your neighbor. Don't sleep with your neighbor's wife. If you don't do those things, like, you guys will be living in harmony, you know?
Mm.
So just some thoughts on that. Any feedback on that?
Yeah, I would say with what you said, I think with even since, I think this is where a lot of men, and I just think human beings, where we have it wrong. And I can't tell you how many guys I talk to, and they say something along the lines of this: I'm a dirty sinner. That's how they refer to themselves.
Mm,
Right?
mm,
I'm a dirty sinner. I'm a sinner, and I just constantly sin. And when you look at the book of Ephesians, so Paul is in Ephesus talking to believers, and all throughout the book of Ephesians, he refers to them as saints. And so when I think about, right, my identity in Christ, do I sin? Do I sometimes struggle? Yes. And I am a saint, not because of anything I've ever done, but because of what Jesus Christ did on the cross. He lived the life I could never live. He died the death that I deserve every day because of my sin. And when he rose again 3 days later, he completely secured everything. And so if I have this belief that I'm a sinner and that's what I place on my identity, then when you think about neurologically how God has designed our brain, our identity leads to our belief systems lead to our emotions, and our emotions lead to our actions.
mm-hmm.
And so if I'm a dirty sinner that's always sinning, my mind then wants to go create evidence of how I'm a dirty sinner always sinning.
Yeah, I feel like we preach that from the stage too often, is like, "You're a sinner," right? Like, you're a sinner," which I get. Sure, I get we are not perfect and we're never going to be perfect, but we are saints if we choose to step into that. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to mess up, but it doesn't give me justification to mess up. It gives me opportunity to know that I'm loved, and it's a lot easier to not mess up or not find myself living in shame or be able to move past the shame when I know who I am, when I know I'm a child of God. Um and yeah, you were going to say something.
And I was gonna say with what you're saying, even the mess up part, right? It allows me to pick up curiosity instead of
Mhm.
picking up shame because I'm completely secured. Who I am is completely secured in whose I am. And so there's nothing, I was dead in my sins. Before Jesus, I was dead and he made me new. I also think that's something that Christians have this perspective around is that they believe that Jesus is making them a better person. And it's like, no,
Mhm.
you died and now
Mhm.
you're new, and so now it's learning to live in that, right, that new creation that you are, and you are already free in Christ. And so it's you not trying to get free from watching porn. It's you living in the reality that you already are free from porn. And so now how do you live in that truth?
Yeah, but then also wrestling with the if I died and I'm a new person, then why on the other side of that am I still tempted by X, Y, and Z? Why do I occasionally scream at my kid or flip off the neighbor or masturbate? So it's like it's also wrestling with that. This is a lifetime journey of we're a part of this big reconciliation, restoration of all things. And so I think sometimes we can feel like, oh, well, maybe I'm not saved. Maybe this isn't real because I do still find myself tempted.
Mm, for sure. Yeah, I think that in that, I think even when you think about sanctification, so
Mm,
I've even wrestled with this kind of, and I as I've this journey is that when I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior, January 7th of 2021, my eternity changed. The eternal realm of who I am,
mm,
how God sees me, completely changed. And so in sanctification, that's me becoming more like Christ. The reality is sanctification is the work that the Spirit is doing in me
mm,
to reveal who I am more like Christ. And I think what we end up doing and what the American right church has done is the gospel isn't about us. And then we get saved and then we then make sanctification about us. So then we try to get our own willpower and we try to then take the keys back to the
yeah.
car. And it's like, man, I've completely missed the mark.
We're trying to do all the work.
What if the sanctification journey is the freedom of seeing how God refines me of who I already am eternally,
hmm
and me living in that enjoyment of the truth to come, and not what I'm not doing right and what I need to do more of.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, beautifully said. The problem is we continue to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yep.
We're like stuck in, is this good? Is this bad? And that was never what we were never supposed to have that knowledge, right? Of that. And so it's as Christians, especially, I think we fall into this is this good? Is this bad? Am I good? Am I bad? At least that's what I find in myself is that is
Yep.
this the deeper identity piece is like I know I'm God's kid, but then I'm like, am I a good kid or am I a bad kid? So I find myself falling into that. I want to share this with you. I want to share this with you. I think sex is like one of the most incredible gifts, obviously, that God has given us, and it should be this like really beautiful thing that we get to experience with our wives. And there's been two times in my life that I have actually fasted from sex.
Mm,
And the first time was like I just was so frustrated all the time. Like we had five little kids. Like obviously they've been like needing my wife all day. So by the time it was like bedtime, she's tired, not into it. It's a favor if it happens. And so I would find myself frustrated, very frustrated. And waking up like thinking about this all day in the back of my head and like grabbing her ass and making comments and like planting little cookies all day, hoping that I'm like teeing myself up for success, which it like never did because I just fed her cookies all day. So by the time rolled around, she's like, I'm sick of this guy touching me too. So, anyways, I remember the first time, and I don't know how I came to this conclusion, but I went to where I'm like, yo, I just think about this all day and I'm frustrated all the time. And I mean, there'd be times where I'm laying in bed, doesn't happen, and I just get up and I go on a walk because I'm mad, which is, I'm sure, making her feel shitty
Mm,
after a day of taking care of my freaking kids all day. Our kids, but you know what I mean? So, anyways, I just share this to go. The first time I did that, I don't even know. It must have been like 2012 or someone in that zone, but it was dope, dude. Like 10 days in, or maybe 8 days in, it was like, because I told her, I'm not masturbating. I'm not thinking about it. I'm just like, if I touch your feet or cuddle you or I'm sweet to you, nothing can happen. And so there's no intention behind it. And dude, by
mm.
like 8 or 10 days in, she was like ready for me. I was like, oh, this is a new feeling. And then I think maybe 2 or 3 years later, I kind of found myself in that zone again. And so then did the same thing. And I found them both very helpful in the mindset piece of like not the mindset piece of renew, because one of the things in your mission is mind renewal.
Yep.
And I found that very much renewing my mind because it was a commitment to her, and like I wasn't going to masturbate. I was going to do anything in these fasting periods. So anyways, I just share that because if a guy is like feeling that way, I think that that's a way that you can help renew your mind. So talk to me about mind renewal. What does that
Yeah,
look like?
for sure. So Romans 12:2, right? The command is to renew your mind, and the order in
Mm,
which we did the program. So the first 4 weeks, and what was cool with Liberated Kings is he's actually a head co-lead pastor down in Waco, review all the curriculum. And then I had another guy at our church that is the community director that reviewed all the curriculum as far as from a theological perspective. So I took
hmm
that very seriously. And so there were some pieces that got moved around in the first 4 weeks. Week 3 is walking in the spirit. And so the reality is that the same spirit that raised Jesus from the dead is the same spirit that indwells in us as believers.
hmm
And oftentimes what happens when, especially porn, and people will, right? It's like, hey, how do I go get more accountability? And how do I go put up more blockers to basically resist this thing?
mm,
Right? And in that, it continues to persist. And so the question when we started Liberated Kings is, hey, less about how do I get somebody to resist it, and how can somebody become a man that no longer even desires it? Like that's the piece where you don't even desire it anymore. And so walking in the spirit is all week 3.
hmm
What's the daily surrender look like? What's the promptings that we get? God always gives us a way out. And I think oftentimes
hmm
we have all this noise, all this distractions in our life that we completely miss the voice of when the spirit is talking to us. And so then in the mind renewal aspect, it's, hey, how do I go build new neurological pathways,
mm,
neuroplasticity, like how our brain is designed. We have these highways in our brain, and our body we will do things subconsciously, and it's just this highway of how it happens. Hey, I
hmm
feel not good enough, I go to porn. And so it's like, how do you actually build new neurological pathways? How do you understand your RAS and how that ties into your belief systems? And how do you rewire these things to be in alignment with ultimately the truth versus the lies and what has happened over the course of someone's life?
Hmm. So okay, so tell me about Liberated Kings. So you kind of
Yep.
just you talked about week 3, walking with the spirit, and maybe let's circle back to the renewal of the mind after this. So talk to me about the program. So you get free from pornography. You're running this program, Covenant, working with 18 to 26-year-olds. Many of them aren't married, so I'm sure porn and masturbation is probably coming up a lot. I mean, shoot, it comes up a lot with the men who come through who are married with kids. But at what point are you like, I'm going to create something? There's a massive need for it, and then tell us how what you've created is different or unique or helps people actually kick this.
For sure. Yeah. So Friday after Thanksgiving, I texted Skylar, who's the other co-founder of Liberated Kings, founder of Rise Up Kings. And I had felt this conviction where I've seen several covenant men find freedom from it. And
Mm,
the clear thing I kept hearing that God kept telling me the Friday after Thanksgiving was that, hey, I've given you a gift. You're not maximizing the gift. You're not wasting it, but you're not maximizing the
mm,
gift. And like, go take action, like, go do something about it. And so we went on this journey from November of last year, so 2025 to February of 2026, where we built out an entire program. So it's an 8-week program. There's a workbook with daily work for 10 to 15 minutes. We had an entire app developed that is specifically focused on the theological, the neurological piece of it. There's a
Mm-hmm.
right community aspect to it. There's a whole video series that goes with it. So we built out an entire 8-week program. And the heart behind it was, I actually had a guy have a conversation with me on this. So it's $49 for 8 weeks. And he was like, man, you should be charging more money. He's like, you shouldn't charge $49. And I spent a lot of time praying, and we spent days of actual, right, weeks of work in getting it created.
Mm-hmm.
And my response to him was that I have prayed on this for hours. There's a weekly Tuesday night call. So like when somebody signs up, they get lifetime access to the Tuesday night calls, and similar to what we do at Rise Up Kings. And I told him that I have spent hours praying on this. God has made it very clear of ultimately what we should charge and what this should be. And when I die one day, I don't have to give an account of my life to you. And so could it also be true that somebody pays $49 and doesn't follow through? Sure. And what could also be true is there's somebody who can't, a lot of other programs, right? Thousands of dollars.
Hmm.
And so they can't afford the thousands of dollars. We built this out in the same quality, if not more, and anybody can be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, like when you and I were on the call last week, I mean, I heard Liberated Kings mentioned kind of at the conference we were just at, but when I went to the website, I was like, this all looks like of the highest caliber. And I've been looking at a lot of fatherhood, family, rites of passage events, lots of stuff. But dude, this is like of the highest caliber, right? And then you sent me the or like the workbook, Bible study program, right? The 8 weeks, and I'm like skimming through it all, and it's like it was done to a world-class level. So when I saw that, I'm like, dude, this there was a lot of hope, I guess,
Mm,
right? A lot of hope that this could work. I mean, dude, it's sad, bro. Um, like the other day, I was sitting in the kitchen with my daughter. We're kind of unpacking the weekend, and we got so much going on, dude. Sometimes I'm like, dude, we're all over the place. And she's just like, because I was like, I really want family dinner tonight, because Sunday night's family dinner. And we had like all come back from different places, and it was like, okay, it was gonna be a little work to get it together. Anyway, she's like, Dad, I don't know any other families who are as close as us. I don't know
mm,
any other families who have dinner even once a week together. And she's like, I know a couple families who don't even have a dining room table.
mm,
And I just think there's so much going on. I think that the men are super hungry for intimacy and connection with their spouse. And so I think that porn is a huge component to really destroying families.
mm,
At a high level. So for me, when I was talking to you, I'm like, dude, there's so many dads who are working their ass off for their family. And they're like, I don't look at porn. I don't cheat on my wife. I don't get drunk. I'm not getting high all the time. And it's like, I masturbate. So what? Or I occasionally look at porn. So what? But they might not have this intimate connection with their wife, or they're thinking about divorce. I mean, dude, I love my wife and I fight for my marriage, and it is hard, you know? Um, and so when I heard this, I'm like, okay, there's two big reasons why I think fathers need to hear this. And I'd like to talk about both of them with you. Um, First off is just for themselves. Like, go ahead. You want to say something?
I was gonna add to what you said there for the guy that's like, man, I right masturbate occasionally. I don't watch porn. The reality is, porn is the tip of the iceberg. The question is, how do you choose to sedate, right? Whether it's
Mm,
alcohol, eating,
hmm.
conversations inappropriately with other women,
Oh
and like
man.
there's all these other things. And so our whole approach is, porn is how we have approached it, and the neurological aspect, the neural pathways, building the new neural pathways, having your identity completely secured in who Christ says you are. And the whole program is really built on however someone chooses to sedate, and porn is the way that we've approached it right now.
Yeah, so I mean, this is what you said to me offline before, is like your guys' program of the renewing of the mind really is what this is about, right? Is it could be applied to any addiction, not just pornography. You know?
100%.
Yeah, and shoot, if you're the guy who's not eating, or I mean who is eating, and like there's an addiction right there, or sweets or whatever. So it's like, if whatever it is that you're finding to avoid the truth of who you are and the power you have. I think that's the thing. It's like, that's what I think, dude. I think the enemy is just trying to help men miss how much power they have. Like, dude, we have so much freaking power. It's wild how much power we have as men, and we're not tapping into it. We're sedating ourselves. Man, okay, so this is super random, but I was thinking about drinking. Like, I drink on occasion, and I was at a 3-day stagecoach festival, whatever. And I was just seeing the level of sedation.
Mm,
And I'm like walking around with 70,000 people, and I had a couple beers, and I was just like, whoa, it was weird. So my wife and I left Post Malone, and I already sort of had I like Post Malone, whatever, but I already sort of had a weird experience being there, watching him perform. And I was just very introspective. And as we're walking out, it's dark. There's all these lights. It felt like everybody's intoxicated. And I'm like, I turned to my wife as we're walking. I'm like, I think this is what hell is like. Just this
mm,
like wandering aimlessly, not tapped into our opportunity of who we are.
mm,
uh it reminded me of, like, Pinocchio, where all the kids get trapped on that island, or the carnival or something like this. And it's like, it's just all a big trick and a scam. And I'm not saying Stagecoach was great, music's great, whatever, have beers, but like, to live in that 24/7 and to not tap into the power of who you are, I think is
mm,
where a lot of men might find themselves, because they're just kind of like stuck. They're stuck, and they need the renewal of their mind. And that's what I'm really feeling like the power of Liberated Kings
mm.
is about, that renewing of your mind, because it's not just, can I be really, really good on the outside, right? That was the Pharisees' problem. But it's what's going on in my heart and my mind.
Mm, for sure. Yeah, and I think it's how do I mean, like, man, even good. It's like, man, I just wanna be faithful. I just wanna be
Gosh.
faithful. Like, Jesus,
Yeah.
just hey, there's nothing because you had said it earlier, and it's something that I thought about, like, even in the wrestle of, like, "Hey, am I being" because I even think with Christians, I think what they'll do is they'll say, like, "Hey, am I a good Christian or am I a bad Christian?"
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Am I being good or bad? And it's like, man, I just wanna be faithful because me
Mm.
being good or bad, really, the standard in which I'm measured isn't if I think I'm good or bad, it's measured by what Jesus did on the cross, and
Mhm.
he has now said, right, that, like, I will never be left nor forsaken. I am a
Yeah.
son of God. I'm a new creation. And so I can just live in this freedom that, and as I live in this freedom and I'm now living from freedom, not for freedom.
Man, it's so good. Yeah, dude. This whole good and bad thing, I heard someone talk about it about 2 years ago, and I'd never heard it this way. And he was like, bad is an obvious quick death, right? Like, I cheat on my wife, I kill my neighbor, I do whatever. Like, that your world fell apart super quick. But
Yep.
being good is like a super slow death, right?
Mm,
Like, it's just a slow, miserable, I'm toxic inside being good.
mm,
And that's where this renewing of your mind and being faithful. I love your word. I want to be faithful. Just like Adam in the garden, if he was just faithful to who he was, then he wouldn't have found himself in this spiraling destruction.
mm,
Okay,
100%.
coming back to fathers. All right.
Yep.
So, one, fathers, you do this for yourself. I mean, you can hear it, right? Do this for yourself. Free yourself to live in freedom, to have incredible intimacy with your wife. I think some men are okay living in the struggle. But men, like, your kids are watching. They know. They know. So the other thing I think is, I feel like if I kick something, if I if I make something not a, and I don't know how much I like want to get in the weeds on this, but I'll just give it to you like this. I think if in my house pornography isn't a thing for me, it's just less likely to be a thing for my son and my daughters, because
100%.
I haven't brought that spirit of, this is a trap in our house. So I think if you dads don't want your son struggling with it, don't want your daughter struggling with it, don't want your daughter's husband struggling with it one day, like, that is a massive reason for you to kick it, to set an example, even if it's an unsaid example
Mm.
for your family. It's really important for dads to step into this.
Completely agree. And I think even what you said, like if there's someone that's struggling with it and they're like, oh, I'm just going to struggle. I'm like, why would you settle for that?
Yeah.
John 8:36, for if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. I'm like, why would I not live in the freedom that I already have? And why would I accept this counterfeit struggle that I've just said, hey, I'm going to have this struggle for the rest of my life? And that's just the reality of what is. That's a counterfeit of reality because in Christ, it's not my reality.
Yeah. I think some men are okay with that though. But I think what they're not okay with is, do you want your son to feel the same way you feel at 40 years old? You're going to
100%.
tell me no, right? And so if that's true, then you have to be the one to fight, right? And I think if you fight, then his fight is either non-existent or much easier because you generationally set a standard, which, dude, I've been really studying multi-generational thinking and family. It's like, this is really unique. So my daughter and I was reading her this morning in Jeremy Pryor's book, Family Revision, freaking phenomenal. And what it was talking about is it's kind of unfair that God didn't make it where every person born has an equal opportunity, right? Like, you're born into a family, you don't have the same opportunities I did,
Mm,
and that seems really unfair. Why did God set it up that way? And the reason he set it up is because God's plan is family. And family, where you find yourself, is truly a culmination of other people's decisions who came before you for your family,
yeah.
right? And so our decisions as men do not just impact our next week, year, or life. It literally impacts our sons and daughters and our future families. And like, as Americans, we're so individualistic, we just have kind of lost sight a little bit of the power of our impact and influence on future generations. And I think we need to get that back. And this is a huge opportunity to do that.
Yeah, because what you're saying, the dad that just accepts struggling, how do you accept a struggle and then tell your son, hey, you shouldn't be struggling with that?
Ludicrous.
All right, Ludwig, it's a
Yeah.
hypocrite to say, hey, well, I
Yeah.
struggle with it and you shouldn't be struggling with this. You accept the standard, right? Ultimately,
Yes.
the family, you're not gonna, right, you're gonna fall to your standards. And so then you accept that as a standard of that, hey, this is an acceptable standard that I have accepted. And then subconsciously, whether you say it or not, it then becomes a standard that gets passed on to your kids.
Yeah. Yeah. The work you do literally gets passed to your kids. I think we see that financially, but finances don't matter if character and community haven't been built.
Mm.
Um, okay, so we talked about the problem. We talked about where it comes from, insecurity, um, feeling of abandonment. Talked about shame. There is hope. The solution, right, is this renewal of your mind. Where do people go and start? And like, what's the process? And what would be some of the, okay, so first, where do people go? How do people get involved with this right now?
Yep. So we've got a website, liberatedkings.com. You hit begin the liberated path. It makes you take a 7-question quiz. We have to verify they're over 18. We have to verify they're a male. And then there's 5 other specific questions that somebody would get asked that is basically about their usage of porn and just some in that struggle. And then they would hit begin the liberated path. We're actually doing a 50% off promo code through your podcast. So they would put in the code FATHER. It would give them 50% off and they can go through the entire program, the entire 8 weeks. And what's cool, so we have just passed 100 guys are either have gone
Yes.
through it or in it. And I would say one of the most incredible testimonies I got about a month and a half ago. So a dad reaches out to me and his son and godson both got busted watching porn the same day. And
Mm.
the godson got busted. He was using AI, was involved with porn. And so that's also, even now, just my heart with this, with the dads, because there's a lot of parents that don't want to have the conversation at home. And if
Mm.
you're not willing to have the conversation, the world is going to have the conversation with them. And so
Mhm.
they're going to have the conversation. The question is, who's going to have it?
Mhm.
And AI is the addiction and the damage that is going to happen because of AI. People are going to get on a website. It's going to know their name. It's going to interact with them exactly how they want to be interacted with. And it will be a level of addiction we have never seen. And
Mm.
the effects are going to be more than we could ever imagine. And so the son and the godson, they're 13 and 14. So the dad's going through the program. The dad struggles with porn. And so they get busted. And so the son's looking at the dad. The son's crying. He's got his chin down. He's bawling. He knows he's doing something he shouldn't be doing. He's filled with shame. And in that moment, the dad picks his chin up and says, "Hey, we're not going to pick up shame. We're going to get curious. I also struggle with porn, and I'm going to lock arms with you guys, and we're going to do this together."
Hmm.
And it's like his life's completely changed.
Yeah. Can you imagine, the enemy, the world tries to get you locked in at 13, and then all of a sudden your dad has enough awareness to show up and be like, dude, this has been or is hard for me. Let's knock this together. Or let me walk alongside you. How much trust is built with that dad as well. All right, my friends, you've been hearing me talk about the Genesis program through Rise of Kings, and I am incredibly excited to invite you to it as well as be a part of it. Rise of Kings has helped thousands of men over the last 5 years discover the reality of their identity, and now they have launched the Genesis program, which is for young men ages 13 to 17. And here's the idea. You as a father would take your son to this 2-day event to start to initiate a conversation and an awareness around what it means to be a man. But the conversation would really be between you and your son. And then after the 2-day event, once we expose your sons to the 4 pillars, to what it means to be a man, then we work with you and your son. I'm actually the coach for the mastermind program. You got Mondo Davis, who does the 2-day event, incredible man, 11 children. He's currently working with his 16-year-old son. I'm working with my 16-year-old son. So you guys, this is fresh, this is real, this matters. So we want to invite you to the 2-day event with you and your son. Then after that, I'll be the coach for the 6-month mastermind, where I'm working with you every 2 weeks. And then I'm working with your sons every 2 weeks, with the idea that we're helping you to really step into what does it look like to help transition your son from a boy into a man. This is something you won't want to miss. It is worth the time, the resources to really help your son see who he is young and early, so that he can love, lead, serve a family and the kingdom moving forward at a young age. Please go to riseofkings.com/FFN to register you and your son. Would love to see you in the program.
Changes the rest of that kid's life. Because the lie that then ends up happening to kids is my story, I got addicted, I kept it in the dark. Shame is ultimately this parasite that leads to a disease that continues to grow in the dark. And so it's like, if the relationship with with your kid isn't the safest place for him to bring something to the light, then where is he ever going to do it at?
Hmm. Dude, this is so important. I think this is one of the most important things in our the state of our world.
100%.
I mean, when you think about, that 13-year-old, it's like now he's not fooling around doing things he shouldn't do, putting an expectation on himself or some girl at 16, 18, 22, having countless relationships, finding really no satisfaction because there's no satisfaction in it. And then starting his marriage out without this unrealistic expectation or thought. The health of the relationship, the marriage, that family that kids are born into, right? The love and intimacy, the depth of connection that the marriage has. I mean, guys, when you think about what we could be setting up, I'm not saying like all divorces right now happen because of porn, but but it is because of a lack of like a belief around what marriage is and what it's supposed to produce and provide. I mean, we are at a state of like family breakdown, culture breakdown, and pornography plays a major part in that. A major part.
Right.
We there's opportunity, and the thing is like, we don't all have to go like donate money to build billboards and go to, start ending brothels and this, that, and the other. Like, start in your own home. If each one of us stops looking at porn, stops masturbating, stops this, then you come back in 100 years, look at our families, look at our kids, dude, it will be different here. It will be less of a problem. And it starts with just you and I working on ourselves.
100%. It'd be completely different if enough men are willing to take it with that level of action.
Yeah. So your goal is 2,000 people by the end of the
Yep.
year.
By the end of the year. So 2,000 men this year, 5,000 in 2027, 15,000 in 2028.
So here's a question. How do we normalize this? How do we normalize this in the sense of like, I'm going to text all my friends on my phone, hey, dude, if you're struggling with porn, here's this link, right? Like, you and I have been talking for 50 minutes, so it feels easy to talk about at the moment. But I'll tell you, bro, I had a podcast with a guy like 2 weeks ago, and he was a pastor, and he's just like, man, when I was 10, I don't even know how he said it, but he said it so normal and no shame that I was like, damn, I'm not there.
Mm,
If this was my story, but he's basically shares that he at 10 years old, he had oral sex with some other boy, not really knowing, just being 10-year-old curious kids, like had no idea what they were doing, went home, told his dad, they talked about it, and there was like no shame, no guilt, just dude, I mean, it wasn't like this, but it felt very much like, oh man, that sucks. That's not who we are. That's not what we do. That's what this is. And move on. Like,
mm,
like, and I'm like, whoa, the way that he shared his and his dad's story, I was like, whoa, that was so just normalized in this, not like saying that's okay, but that it's okay to talk about. It's okay to say this is a struggle. So from your perspective, how do we make this like not a shameful thing and be like, hey, 75% of us are struggling with this. So I'm assuming 3 out of 4 of my friends have a problem and you'd probably like to get free from it.
mm. Yeah, man. I think a couple things. I think one, there's a lot of people that even are probably listening to this that understand their identity in Christ and they don't understand
Mm,
their value in
okay. That's
Christ,
good.
right? So
Yeah.
hey,
Yep.
my identity is who am I? And the value is ultimately the price that someone is willing to pay for something. And so I think what ends up happening, one of the greatest lies from Satan is to get us to find our value and our performance, to find our value and
Mm,
see us, all the things. And so until if you don't understand your value in Christ, that hey, Christ is ultimately, he paid the price, he determines what you're worth, then you're going to always live in this state of shame because you're like, well, hey, if I share something, is that going to affect my value with how somebody else sees me? And so I think that's you got to understand them both. And then you
hmm.
also have to live in the spot to where, and I think this is really what hit me at 23 is I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
Like I was over it. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I think there are some people that are sick and tired, but they're not sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't wanna tell their wife, right? And then you ask them, well, hey, their wife doesn't know about their addiction, and they're like, "Oh, well, do you have true intimacy with your wife?" And they're like, "Oh, I have true intimacy," but I'm like, "How intimacy is into me you see. How do you have true
Mm.
intimacy with your spouse if you're hiding something?" And so are you willing to risk good for great?
Yeah, yeah. And if you know it's at stake, yeah, if you know it's at stake, it's not just your life.
No.
And coming back to that piece about like you're okay being sick and tired, man, your 3, 4 generations down the road, your decisions impact. Dude, I'm just reading this morning, bro. Check this out real quick. This like kind of rocked me as I've been looking at the very last verse. I got to open highlighted the very last verse of the Old Testament before we step into the New Testament. It's Malachi 4, 5, and 6. It says, behold, I'm going to send you Elijah the prophet before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes, and he will turn the hearts of fathers to, I could almost cry, bro. He will turn the hearts of fathers to their children and the hearts of children to their fathers, lest I come and strike the land with a decree of utter destruction. But dude, this is generational. Like
Mm,
we're part of something. We don't get to live to 1,000. We get to live to like 80 or 100. That means that what we do in that time period like really matters for the next group that lives to 80 or 100.
mm,
So like to be able to pass down what the kingdom of God is all about, to pass down identity and value, it comes from the Father. It comes from the Father. So whatever identity and value you are living in, dude, that's the identity and value that your kid's going to live in. So like if you're
mm.
not willing to do the work, your kid's going to find themselves in the same sad ass cycle that you're in. And dude, enough's enough. Like, dude, let your sick and tired get you off the couch and get you off the phone screen doing things you know are not good for you, they're not good for your kids. So, all right, Thomas, dude, this is incredible. LiberatedKings.com. Use the code FATHER. Please, please step into this. Like, if you're hearing this, it's not happen chance. Do something with your opportunity here. Invite a friend along. Be like, yo, dude, hey, Thomas, this is so weird, bro. I was just on a podcast, or I just listened to a podcast about porn. It's weird to say it, but I struggle with this. I'm going to go do this program. I'm going to send you the link. Do you want to go do it together? Like, I mean, dude, let's go. Why not? Why not? What do you have to lose and what do you have to gain?
And there's groups that are doing it. I mean, there's pastors now. There's a pastor in New York that has a group of 10 that are going through it. There's a group in Kentucky that they have 12 to 14 guys going through it. And so what's cool, because in that, right, you talk about the shame piece, that is then normalizing the struggle. And so Satan's great, right? If he can get you to believe you're the only one that struggles with it, then like that's where he keeps you in this isolation, destructive cycle. And so as guys are doing it together, it's normalizing like, hey, we're in this together and let's go do something about it together.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it, dude. Well, I'm going to be talking about this on the podcast more on my Friday episodes, throwing a commercial in there for it. I want dudes to step into this. I think it's massive for their families and their legacy. Again, dudes, it's liberatedkings.com. Go check it out. It's truly incredible opportunity to do this alongside a friend, brother, a son. Thomas, any last thoughts, anything you want to share about any of this before we rock out of here?
Yeah, if I had to leave one person with one thing, grace has changed everything. You're not a sinner trying to be free. You're a saint who sometimes struggles, and you are already free, and it's learning to live from that reality.
Oh, dude. Freaking love it. All right, bro. Thomas, dude, just blessings to you, blessings to your marriage, blessing to your mind, for the work that you're doing. Thank you for doing it. Thank you for leading the charge. Thank you for helping to make this not something that's in the dark, and for putting, man, truly, I know, hours. Hours and hours. Like when you see the quality of this, guys, as you go through it, you're gonna be like, yo, some dude, there's not enough money we could pay him to justify.
I spent days. It was days.
Yeah. So thank you.
My wife was a trooper.
Thank you, because it matters. It matters. All right, brother. Until next time.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Okay. Pretty epic. As I stepped into this, as I looked at the curriculum beforehand, I was like, hey, this is really cool. This is for somebody else. And as I did it, I'm like, you know what? There are some areas of my mind that I could work on continuously renewing, because I can find myself stepping into discipline, right? Which discipline's great, but I think in anything, work, fitness, spending time with my family, like, okay, I am good at being good. But am I leaning into walking with the Spirit and allowing my mind to be renewed? And it's like, dude, look at Jesus. Jesus paused regularly and went and spent time with the Lord. And so here's my commitment. As soon as the podcast ended, I was like, you know what? I need to go through this curriculum myself. So I'm going to go through it. And then when the podcast comes out, I'm going to make an offer, and I'm going to run this for 8 weeks at my house with some friends, and just try to be like, yo, if you and or your son feel like you're struggling with porn or masturbation or having negative or sexual thoughts you shouldn't be having, like, yo, let's come over and let's talk about it. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm feeling good about that. So dudes, liberatedkings.com, go check it out. Go support all of us. If you're like, I don't look at porn, but I pause too long looking at this Instagram reel of whatever it could be, like, there's room for you to renew your mind. Let's get this out there, Liberated Kings. So please write a review if this podcast is helping you, is powerful. Write a review, whatever platform. And then ultimately, man, send this to a friend. Go check out Liberated Kings. Use the promo code FATHER. This is huge opportunity. Huge opportunity. Don't listen to this and just feel good about listening to this. Go do something about it. All right. Thank you to all you dads out there listening to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Do not be like everybody else. Be yourself. That's who your kids, spouse, and community needs. This is your guide, Ned Shout. Together, Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact. And this podcast is a great example, this opportunity with Liberated Kings. Like, rebel against what every other dad's going to do, which is nothing, and create something out of this moment that you just had. But we want to master the craft of fatherhood, and that means doing some work. So, all right, dudes, I look forward to hanging out with you next week.